Okay, guys, you got me. I'm a little late. I'm a little late today, but that's all right. That's all right. I've been late before, you know. I'm 3 minutes behind the mark for today's schedule, and and I don't feel good about it, but I don't feel bad about it. We are talking the religion of monetary value, part six, and yes, indeed, some Candace talking will ensue. Um, because Well, she's the most powerful person in independent media that independent media has ever seen. And well, it's just very relevant. It's very relevant. So, and it's so cool to watch her like wake up to these more uh, principled topics than what's the best economic strategy, or what's the stupid thing that a specific politician did, or whatever. Because she was already, you know, really good at making those things in podcast form entertaining. But now that she's just like pursuing the higher, or you could say deeper, levels of truth behind the curtain consistently, and sticking to her guns and sticking to God and sticking to um her principles, her values, and showing what it looks like to actually do so at real cost. It's very cool to watch. Very, very fun to watch and inspiring. So, if you are here, you are in for some real conversations, good people, as you can see. Please like the video, subscribe to the channels if you want to stay. We talk about natural law, we talk about religion, the good, the bad, and the ugly, as you can see. Religion of monetary value is on the table tonight. We talk about money, we talk about anarchy, we talk about culture, and how mankind is manipulated by forces that don't have our best interests at heart. And we are not bashing faith systems here, okay? We are simply examining the psychological cause and effect of the stories that we have the most faith in, and how those stories help shape society. But that examination has to sit right alongside an honest look at the current human condition, which is slavery. Government is slavery, good people. And the question we have to always come back to is, what can actually be improved with a proper understanding of one's inner storyteller and how it works. And if any of that makes you a little uneasy, makes you a little uncomfortable, or makes you a little angry for any reason, please be assured that although you are encouraged to stay, you are indeed also welcome to leave at any time. So thank you for being here. And let's just kind of dive right in. It is a glorious day to talk about something that almost everyone instinctively already knows is wrong, but almost no one can explain why it's wrong without kind of contradicting themselves in a certain way. And I'm talking about profiting off tragedy, using a tragedy solely to make yourself enriched monetarily. There is something wrong about that. The instinct is near universal. When someone dies, especially violently, publicly, in way that shocks the community, the idea of someone turning that tragedy, that death, into a revenue stream produces a reaction in most people that lands somewhere between disgust and fury. We know that it's wrong. We feel that immediately and very deeply. But here's the problem: right? The same value system that produces that instinct also tells us that profit itself is the legitimate measure of value, that monetary profit, these symbols, is the legitimate measure of value, real value, that there's real value in monetary profit. The same value system, right? The same system that produces that instinct tells us that there is real value in money. And that's a problem, a little bit. If both are true, why is profiting off of tragedy wrong? This is a philosophical question. I am not going to try and justify profiting off of tragedy. This is a philosophical question that we should explore because it's important to understanding oneself. Okay. Let me move something on the screen off of the screen over here and move this right here. Boom. Okay, done. Sorry about that. Now, we tell ourselves that money is a neutral tool, right? It's a tool. If you use it for good, it's great. If you use it for bad, it's not great. We tell ourselves that the market determines something's worth, right? And when I say it like that, you may go, well, not really, but no, really, because you have to grow up and you have to acknowledge over and over again after you realize the truth about it that the market doesn't determine something's value, that has never been the case. All right. And our agreement, our collective work in perpetuating the illusion that it does with marketing and with all of these tools that we use to keep up the mind control, the consumerism mind control, the war profiteering mind control, the industrial complexes, right? Prison industrial complex, the fighting industrial complex, the propaganda industrial complex, pharmaceutical industrial complex, all the complexes. Um, we don't have anything but a shared illusion backing the idea that the market determines anything's worth. Because anything with worth is infinitely worth, is worth an infinite amount. Because we are in harmony with all things, or we can be. We are in severe disharmony with all things, actually, as a human family. But uh, but we can change that. It doesn't have to be like that. And there are moments where harmony is lived and felt and explored consciously that remind us what we are here to actually do, what changing the world actually looks like. It has nothing to do with everybody having at least a certain amount of money. That's for sure. So, if all of this is true, if money does give one real value and it's just universally wrong to profit off of um, or it's recognized as universally wrong, is universally recognized as wrong to profit off of a tragedy like someone's death, what makes it wrong? I say the inner storyteller framework makes it wrong. So why do we know it's wrong? We know it's wrong to profit off tragedy, in my opinion, because deep down we already know and can acknowledge that monetary value is not real. And I know we live our life to get monetary value from these people. But I think you know deep down it's not real. Tragedy is real. A person's life is real. Grief is real. The community's loss and that person no longer being here is real. And the face of something real, something that cost an actual human being their actual life, stopping their influence on the world and in their participation in making the world a better place without the right to stop it. The pursuit of something fictional in light of this tragedy reveals itself as exactly what it is, which is not value creation. Pursuit of the fictional money does not actually read as value creation when you do it on the backs of tragedy. People don't say, "Oh, they're creating value." When when like, you know, TPUSA, okay, gets $250 million off the back of a tragedy. So, we're not seeing value creation. We're not seeing meaningful exchange of any type of value. The harvesting of real human pain to accumulate fake units of success is seen as disgusting, and it makes people furious because we know deep down money isn't real. Monetary value isn't real. Pardon me. It's easier to say money isn't real, but obviously digital money and paper money are real. But monetary value is not real. That doesn't exist. There's nothing in life that's actually like monetary value. There's just it's nothing. And therefore, as explained in previous episodes in this series, in this religion of monetary value series, there nothing goes wrong with the resources, with the actual resources when the books, the accounting books are not balanced. When a debt goes unpaid, it's not because the debt goes unpaid that suddenly all of the fruit went sour, right? Oh, well, we can't sell the fruit because we can't balance the books. So now we are obligated by nature to leave the fruit in this crate until it rots and then we can throw it away. Right? Right. The resources, the human labor, the potential human labor, the human ingenuity and idea creation, the already invented and in use technologies that allow us to communicate and lift heavy things and uh, traverse terrain that we can't do on foot, whatever it is. All of the actual resources that exist in real life that we can see in nature and interact with and manipulate, the resources are still real. But because the books aren't balanced, we tell ourselves that the project has to cease. So that's very important to keep in mind as I go through the rest of this episode. When I say money isn't real, when I say monetary values, it's not real, nothing's real about it. I mean, when the books can't be balanced and there's a good project that we're working on, we should just keep doing the good project and forget about this fake debt BS idea that would stop good projects from getting done. We are very evil to each other. Okay? Something we gotta face, grow up out of as a human family. Now, when these things are placed directly next to each other, a real death and a fake symbol, money, being extracted from that death, the inner storyteller cannot maintain the fiction that monetary value is real. The contrast is is much too stark, right? The real thing, the loss and the fake thing are sitting in the same frame, valuable, and the sorting function can't put them in the same drawer. And that's why the uh, revulsion is instinctive rather than reasoned. You don't have to think about it to be disgusted when people make $250 million off of a tragic death immediately, right? It arrives before the logic. It's not a logical conclusion. It's the inner storyteller catching a contradiction that it's trained to overlook in most contexts. The contradiction between real human value or real value in general and fake symbol value or magic, mind control, if you will, placed on top of it. And the inner storyteller reacts accordingly. Now let's talk about TPUSA a little bit. And let's bring up my Candace picture. Well, not my Candace picture, but the thumbnail for this video. Okay? Candace Owens, the people's champion right now. Um, somebody that just has made absolutely best friends with adversity and like triumph over adversity. Like her and Triumph are like this. They're freaking dapping it up when they see each other. Candace Owens recently addressed something on her show that I want to bring up. My nose is itching. That I want to bring up in this episode because it's the cleanest documented example of this mechanism that I've seen. Erica Kirk accused Candace Owens of grifting, of making money off of Charlie Kirk's assassination in an article that was sprouted from an interview with an alleged family friend, and it was written in the Daily Mail. Family friend of the Kirks, right? Which was later revealed in a future episode to more than likely be um, what's her name, Tracy Martin. And Candace reminded her audience of something verifiable, some things that were verified. Actually, right? It might not be appropriate to say that Candace Owens, in comparison to TPUSA or Erica Kirk, is profiteering off of tragedy here. Turning Point USA and the Charlie Kirk Show raised over $250 million in the immediate aftermath of Charlie Kirk's death, a lot of which came from memorabilia. They sold the Freedom shirts, right? They had up the tent where Charlie was assassinated under a tent with a specific design. They sold photographs in front of a bloody microphone that Charlie was holding when he was killed. They hosted a slew of live events with high ticket prices built around the emotional weight of his passing. And now, for legal reasons, I will say, let me make myself big. I am not making a legal claim. I am not assigning motive. And I am not doing anything more than stating my opinions, naming behaviors, and asking what those behaviors reveal about the relationship between people profiting off of tragedy and the person's death who they are monetizing. Okay. Now, the question that the inner storyteller framework asks about any action is simple. What story does this behavior tell about what is actually being valued? A Freedom t shirt sold under the tent does not continue Charlie's work, right? It doesn't bring college students together around his ideas. It doesn't advance civic discussion on its own. It doesn't contribute to the truth seeking that would actually honor what he had built. What it does is extract monetary value units from the emotional weight of his death and converts it into paper and digital representations of access to resources, which is the fake thing harvesting from the real thing, of course. And if TPUSA had wanted to do something that had real value, not just monetary value, they would have done what Charlie himself was doing while he was alive. They would have been talking to people, even if it wasn't students, even if they didn't have anybody that could do exactly what Charlie was doing in the same style he was doing it. Of course, yeah, Charlie Kirk was a different animal when it came to that debating stuff. But talking with people, talking with students, hosting civic discussion that doesn't automatically, run out of time as soon as all of the paid actors have asked their questions. Fighting for truth, regardless of whose narrative it may complicate, including if it complicates the narrative of the federal government or federal government agencies like the FBI. Doing work that costs something and produces something genuinely aligned with what the person stood for should be what they did. Because that's how you honor someone's life. Not with a t-shirt, right? That costs $12 to make and is sold for $50 plus shipping. The accusation of grifting directed at Candace is also worth naming precisely because she's being accused of making money off of Charlie's death by an organization that sold photographs of a bloody microphone or sold space to take a photograph in front of a bloody microphone. The accusation is itself a piece of the exploitation because it brings views. Using the language of financial ethics to silence the person most committed to examining what actually happened, or at least best suited for it, because I can't even say she's the most committed anymore. So many people are down with the investigation. Diligent Dennison is scoring major points for, you could say, the Candace side of the Candace versus TPUSA um, dichotomy here. I think I misused that word. Anyway, fight. Anyway, um, try to sound smart sometimes. um, they're trying to use financial ethics to silence the person actually seeking truth, while the accuser profits in the most literal and documented way and public way imaginable. I love listening to Coach Collins' enactments of TPUSA officials and Charlie Kirk show officials, like what he does these skits off the top of his head where he'll just have a conversation between like Erica Kirk and Blake Neff and Mr. Wachuka, and they're all in the room and they're getting yelled at by Mr. Wachuka because they're making dumb decisions. And Erica Kirk is like always putting on glitter because she because she made such a wild, NFL level spectacle of every live event in the immediate aftermath while they were doing all of this, buy our t-shirt shenanigans. And yeah, this is not a coincidence that that they're going at Candace as if she's trying to profit off of Charlie's death while profiting in such wild numbers, right? Which seem to have plummeted. I don't, I don't know what their donors are talking about right now, but and I'm sure that because they are acting a certain way, um, they're not going anywhere anytime soon. But from the public, that seems to have stopped for some reason. But let's talk about social credit. Let's talk about social credit. Okay, the parallel currency running and is just as fake. You'll see. Let's talk about it. Here's where I want to take this a little bit further down the rabbit hole because the grief profiteering argument connects to something larger, okay, a philosophical point that I want to name precisely, which is social credit. Social credit is the non monetary currency that runs parallel to the religion of monetary value and serves the same function. Where monetary value is the story that fake symbols represent real resources and real value, social credit is the story that fake belonging represents real community. You accumulate it by performing the right signals within your tribes. You spend it by deviating from those signals. And the people administering the system, the media ecosystem, the political machinery, the institutional voices that defines what counts as acceptable within each tribe, the public school system, the people administering the system are the clergy of this parallel religion operating inside the larger one. And just like the religion of monetary value as a whole, social credit is maintained not primarily by force, but by the willingness of the congregation to keep running the stories that make the system feel real. Let me show you three examples of the same mechanism running simultaneously through completely different tribal communities. First, let's look at the t shirt. When you buy a Charlie Kirk Freedom t shirt, in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's death, you are not primarily expressing grief or honoring legacy. You are paying the social credit tax required to maintain membership in good standing within the community that defined itself around Charlie Kirk. Also, you may feel genuine grief and you may feel genuine honor thinking about his legacy while doing so. The t shirt signals belonging. It says, I am one of us. I feel what we feel. I stand where we stand. The monetary transaction is the surface. The social credit transaction is the substance. And because the social credit function of the purchase is the real function, the moral question, does this honor the person's life or does this exploit his death? Or does this enable the exploitation of his death, I should say? Because this is not about blaming somebody who bought a t shirt for anything nefarious, of course. You got to be able to think layered. It's a high IQ outfit, as Barron would say. Um, because the social credit function of the purchase is the real function, the moral question never gets examined. The inner storyteller files the entire process into the supporting my community drawer. And the examination of is the one trying to sell me the t shirt doing a moral thing? Am I participating in something that is right or not? Um, what is the what are if I do this, if I, support in this way, am I being am I moving myself and my community closer towards our shared objectives or further from them? And that's very important to keep in mind. Now, example two, we'll wrap this up in a bow, which is the pro life patriot example. Okay. And it's a little more uncomfortable as an example, but I want to handle it with precision rather than division. There are people who will publicly and passionately advocate for the protection of unborn life. They will attend rallies. They will have IRL or in real life conversations on the street, sometimes with a camera and a mic. They will vote single issue. They will call abortion murder without hesitation. And then those people will also just as passionately call for and or support military actions overseas that just so happen to unalive civilians, men, women, and children, and file those actions, those military actions, under necessary collateral damage to preserve freedom. The moral intuition underneath the pro life position is real and consistent with natural law. Human life does have inherent value and is absolutely worth looking after, even if it's not born yet, even if it's not out of the womb yet. A human being cannot be killed for the convenience of another human being, and that be a moral act. That intuition applied consistently is indeed sound. It's not being applied consistently though. The same inner storyteller that files the unborn local child into the innocent and deserving of protection drawer files the distant Gazan civilian, um, um, Siberian civilian, Sudanese civilian, um, whatever, right? Korean civilian into the necessary cost of freedom drawer. Both filings feel completely consistent under the mind control, right? They feel completely consistent from the inside because the sorting function ran them through different filters. The unborn child that's near you is personal, is proximate, right? It fits the tribe's whole narrative. The distant civilian, the distant child, is othered. I'm America only, right? Look at what America's doing to the whole world, and I'm America only. It's like, I'm coherent only. If you're a coherent human being, if your heart, mind, and words are flowing in the same general direction, and you're not out here causing harm, I'm with you no matter what country you from, or what language you speak, or what foods you like to eat, or whatever. If you're not causing harm and you're coherent, your heart, mind, and actions are aligned, I'm with you. I don't care what country you're from. I don't care what government you swore allegiance to, right? The distant civilian is othered, and the tribe's narrative has already provided a framework that files their death as regrettable but necessary. And that filtering mechanism is called social credit. The pro life position pays the social credit within one community. The support of the military action does the same for another community or the same community. The moral inconsistency between the two never gets really examined because both positions are under the currency of social credit, the currency of belonging. What gets sold is called patriotism. It's actually just social credit. And the last example is a story. Okay. Imagine yourself at 8 years old and how much you may have loved ice cream at 8 years old. If you love something else as your favorite dessert, you can use that. How much you loved ice cream. Imagine at 8 years old, your country is invaded by a foreign military. You don't speak their language, and they're causing a lot of destruction all around you. And you're quite ignorant as to why. And you're outside one day with the homies, with your peers, children your age, and one of these military men from the other side of the world offers you in your language ice cream. And you and the homies walk up to him. He hands you something and walks away. And you take a look at what you were handed. Notice immediately it's not ice cream. It's a grenade. And that's the reason why they're walking away so fast. There are videos resurfacing of American soldiers in Iraq handing youngsters live grenade, saying it's ice cream. A human being could hand children a live grenade and film it as entertainment, has had the civilian population that they're operating around so thoroughly and so deeply filed into the not real people drawer, subhuman drawer, that the most basic intuition, these are children, the most basic intuition can't activate. And yet the same person call themselves a patriot, and if they saw someone who, like, if they were back home, if they're in America, if they were in New York and they saw someone abusing a child, they would go to that child's aid and be very heroic about it. That is not simple evil in the cartoonish sense. That is a manufactured mentality, deliberately produced through military training, through dehumanization language, and social credit. A social credit system that rewards soldiers for tribal loyalty, that is unmoving even when the orders given are extremely immoral, and it punishes them for moral hesitation. The institution produces the mentality, and the mentality produces the behavior, and the social credit system rewards the compliance with the institution's instructions. What is sold is not the opportunity to hand a child a grenade. What is sold is a story that makes the grenade possible. And that story is that these children are not real people in the way that the people you went to school with are real people. The children you went to school with are real people. The story that their lives are a different category of event than the lives you would be willing to fight for is the story that the distance between you and them is somehow a moral distance, not just a geographical distance. And to be real, as you all, as you know that you get on this channel, the congregation of that story, the congregation of that religion is us, right? The congregation of that story pays for membership through silence, consent, bumper stickers, and social credit. There are two religions running together: the religion of monetary value and the social credit system are not really two separate things. As I said, the social credit system is within the bubble of the religion of monetary value. One administers access to material resources, the other administers access to belonging and identity. Both require the suspension of genuine moral examination of behavior, and both punish deviation from the tribe's instructions. And both are maintained not primarily by force, but by the willingness of the congregation to keep running the stories that make the systems feel real, despite how far away from real any of them are. So the memorabilia sold after a tragedy, the pro-life uh, T-shirt, the patriotism of supporting war in every case. What is actually being purchased is social credit dressed as moral conviction. You buy the T-shirt not because you believe it creates real value, but because it signals membership, and that doesn't mean you wanting to signal membership after a tragedy happens is the bad thing. That doesn't mean that. But you support the action not because you've evaluated all of the pieces, but because questioning it would cost you some belonging, social credit units that you've been building your identity around. The social credit system and the monetary system share the same foundational architecture, right? Both are built on the acceptance of a fictional symbol as though it were a real thing. Monetary value is the fictional symbol for real resources, and social credit is the fictional felt symbol for real community. And both require real human beings to continuously perform fictional roles to maintain their appearance of legitimacy. Neither produces what it claims to produce. The monetary system does not produce genuine abundance. The social credit system does not produce genuine belonging. Real community, just like real value, has never required any performance. It has only ever required the doing. The genuine choice to show up, to share, to work for yourself and others, and to honor the lives of the people who actually mattered rather than the symbols attached to their deaths. So, I have a question. The next time you feel the instinctive revulsion, okay, repulsion, the instinctive turn away reaction at watching someone profit from tragedy, you have to know that that reaction is data. It's information that's important. You should trust your gut, as Candace often says. Your inner storyteller is catching a contradiction that it was trained to overlook in some different contexts. The real thing and the fake thing in the same frame don't feel right together. Don't dismiss this feeling of discomfort. Don't file it away because examining it might cost you some social credit in a community that you've built your identity around. Trust your gut, follow your gut, explore what you think you think, ask what it's pointing at, ask why the behaviors that are requested of you are being requested. Because the answers, when you follow these questions honestly, are usually always the same. In this instance, the symbol cannot pretend to be the real thing. The real thing was too visible, right? The loss was too human, too natural. The life was too obviously worth more than the number. That's the recognition. That is the recognition that is needed for the inner storyteller work that we have to engage in order to actually make the world a better place for our children. Make the present a better now for the future. you know? And not just in the obvious cases, but in all of them. We have to use the feeling that it's not good to profit off of tragedy, to re examine our relationship with tragedies, especially those that happen outside of our comfort zone, maybe in the hood near you or across the world, whatever you have information about. We got to stand up. We got to wake up. Wake up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. As Bob Marley said. Don't give up the fight. All right? And of course, the question is, what story are you willing to live? Thank you very much for hanging out with your boy. Please let me know in the comments what story you are willing to live. And I love y'all so very much. Tomorrow, Sarah Cross will be back in the building. Back in the building with Sarah Cross talking stuff. Drip what's it called? Spilling the tea, you know. So be excited. I'll see y'all then. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace and love, always and always.